Shona Ferguson. Leanne has more for you on this.
All right, yes, indeed. Thanks very much, Sakina. All right, so, it is, of course, a very tough time at the moment. For the family, the Ferguson family, and the funeral service of media mogul Shona Ferguson is underway in Ruimsig, Johannesburg. Ferguson passed away on Friday at the Netcare Milpark Hospital from COVID-19 related complications. So these visuals live at the moment, and Patricia Visagie is there on the scene. So, Patricia, the family devastated. These, of course, are colleagues. It's a very small ceremony that's taking place inside for those that are close to Shona. Obviously, family that are only there, but outside we can still see very, very sad scenes. And we saw the hearse driving past a bit earlier. Perhaps you can talk to us about what's been going on since we last spoke.
Good morning, Leanne, and to our viewers. Of course, the hearse that drove through that guard of honor here at the Ferguson studios in Ruimsig. And of course, it has just concluded. It took about 2 drives. And you'd understand that Mr. Ferguson died of COVID-19 related complications. So it's a very intimate proceedings under tight COVID-19 protocols. So the crew members that are here are not going to the actual proceedings. They had the opportunity to bid Mr. Ferguson farewell, their final farewell, here at the studios during that guard of honor. And of course, we saw emotional scenes as some of the crew members here, the men and women who worked very closely with Mr. Ferguson over the years, many of them battling to hold back tears, as of course some of them said that they're still in shock. This is still very much unbelievable for them. They are struggling to come to terms with what happened. Many of them remembering, what a good person he was. Some of the on-air personalities, the actresses and actors that we spoke to, saying that he was an exceptional man who has left an indelible mark in the hearts of many of them. They remember some of the warm hugs that he used to give them on a daily basis, and some of the jokes, some of the great moments they shared off television, of course. And many of them said that he inspired them. He gave them opportunities, in particular the younger actors. He gave them opportunities when many overlooked them, when many other production houses overlooked them. And he really, went the extra mile to encourage them, to really sharpen their skills. And there's so much inspiration and so much strength and knowledge that they drew from him. And this is the man that today they bid farewell. Many of them saying that it's unbelievable. But also, again, it is a startling reminder of how devastating COVID-19 is. Of course, we spoke to some of the crew members. I'll try again, Leanne, just to speak to Lauren Nell. She's just down the street. She is the show runner for, of course, the Ferguson films. She is the lady in charge of the crew that you saw, observing the guard of honor. So let me speak to Lauren Nell again. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, as you said earlier, somber doesn't really cut it today. It's much deeper than that. Again, just share with our viewers what this moment means to many of you who are here today.
I think it's as I've been saying, we've all been saying, to see a whole glorified Shona Ferguson in that box is just a moment you can't really describe. But we strive to keep the legacy going. Yes, it's gut-wrenching sadness and a massive loss. This was more than a boss. It was a mentor. It was a friend. He was like a father figure to all of us, and he taught us to keep going, and he taught us to, face adversity, and no matter what was being said, we kept our heads held high, always. That was the Ferguson Films brand. As a family, we're deeply distraught. But I think he had a wonderful send-off. I think he would have loved that. It was so perfect for him. And we just keep going onwards and upwards, and hashtag keep rising as we go. So I think we're all feeling a little bit more composed that we got to say our final goodbyes, but it's not a goodbye. His legacy lives on in everything we do. So yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Let's speak to another gentleman that we know from one of the soapies that were run by the Ferguson Films. Many of you would know him as Tato on The Queen. So, as I said earlier, we don't have enough words to describe what many of you are going through, but just share your feelings and perhaps some of your fondest of moments, memories of Mr. Ferguson.
Wow. What do you say when you've lost the only father figure you know? I've lost the mentor, I've lost the dad. I've lost the mentor, I've lost the dad. I've lost the only man that actually changed my life. So it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy journey. Still don't know where to start, but yeah, he's been great. The man, as I say, he changed my life in many ways than one. I mean, every single scene was and still remains a memory for me. But I guess his legacy will live forever, and that's what we need to do right now. Is just to take the baton and just run with it.
In short, how would you describe that legacy?
Mr. Shaw always remained true to what we call love and to what we call hard work, dedication, and commitment. That's the only thing. Family, God, and then the rest will fall into place. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and of course our deepest condolences to many of you. Leanne, some of course the emotional pour out of the men and women, as I said, who worked very closely with Mr. Shona Ferguson. Many of them, as I said, saying that he really left an indelible mark in the hearts and minds of many. He was a living and walking inspiration for many, and they're really battling to come to terms. And there, as you heard, that for them right now is really to take the baton and run forward with it, as they will continue to, of course, make sure that Mr. Ferguson's legacy lives on. Of course, this was just the beginning of today's program. As I said earlier, the family, of course, having to observe the COVID-19 protocol. So it's an intimate ceremony for only the family members as far as the funeral is concerned. And that is why the crew members, of course, had to gather here at the studios for, of course, the guard of honor that you saw, and for them to also have the opportunity to have that last, farewell that they can also observe. From here, we're now going to the cemetery, the four-way cemetery, where Mr. Ferguson will be taken to his final resting place. So we'll come back to you a little bit shortly with more details in terms of what is happening there.
All right, Patricia, thanks very much for that report. Patricia Visagie is, of course, going to make her way now to the cemetery. But remember, this is a private ceremony that's happening for the late Shona Ferguson. I think everybody just very, very shocked and taken aback by this. I mean, when the news came through on Friday of his passing, I just think everybody was in complete and utter disbelief. A young, fit, full of energy, full of life, a picture of just perfect health, and somebody that has I say has.
Everything going for them.
Everything, and just so taken aback by this passing. But
Yeah.
that's just the story of the times living through COVID. It just leaves no stone unturned, unfortunately, and you never know how it's going to affect you. So it's a very sad moment. It really, really is.
It really is, and my heart goes out to Connie because this is probably one of the most beautiful love stories, and so beautifully documented for all of us. You talk about the goals, relationship goals.
Yeah.
They were just such a beautiful couple, so in love with one another, and you could see it. There are certain things that you can't fake.
Yeah.
You could just see with the two of them, and my heart breaks for her because she, in the first instance, and of course the family by extension, but she is going to have to find a new normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And carry the business, carry the family, be this woman, and find a strength within her to deal with all of this. And that's just the reality of what's happened, all overnight, literally overnight. And I suppose that's been the story of a lot of South Africans, but I suppose we stop and look at it like this because Shona is such a well-known and well-respected person that we've all looked at and thought, it's almost invincible and an impossibility. But I just can imagine that this is just echoing through so many South Africans' hearts because, this is just one of those stories that unfortunately is devastating.
She said something so beautiful. She says, God must love me so incredibly for having given me you.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those are beautiful words. So if you are wanting to watch the actual the full proceedings, please go on to the YouTube channel. I can see that it is being streamed there.
Yes,
so
it is.
You're able to go on there to SABC News. All right, let's quickly just update you on some sporting news now, just before we get into our last headline news bulletin.